Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Marvel Spider-Man Spectacular Difficulty video walkthrough. This is the Heart of the Matter mission, and we will be completing it with no damage. This is a fantastic mission, guys. There is a lot to this mission, and a lot of it is pretty interesting as far as challenge goes. It's not as difficult as Into the Fire, but it's definitely more demanding than some of them. It's definitely more interesting than Massive Head and Serial Anus MJ sections. Because, let's face it, guys, if you're going to walk around as MJ for those sections as long as you do, the developers could have made her ass nice enough for us to stare at something while we're doing the fucking brainless stealth, right? But they didn't do that. Because, of course, that would be bad. That would be objectifying women. But it's okay because it's equal opportunity lacking of objectification, because I don't know if you've noticed, but Peter Parker, for all his qualities, is really lacking in the bulge department. And I noticed this, guys, because I want something to be there for the ladies. So when I did my close-up angle wide lens on his crotch and saw nothing, I was profoundly disappointed. There was no moose's knuckle, there was nothing. It's not how it should be. It's not fair. If we're going to see titties in every video games, give something for the ladies. Let's give them a nice crotch cam. You know they like it. That's true, right? That's why there's all those dick pics on Tinder. This is just science. But in this mission, we're going to be taking on a rather large stealth section against some Sable officers, I think they are. And then after that, you're going to be taking on some of those Sable jet troopers. And the fight against the Sable guys in the sky, with all the people with guns on the ground, is a really tricky fight, because it's incredibly easy to take damage. But it's also really satisfying to do, because if you get on top of everybody and you use your gadgets and you use your abilities, you can do it pretty quick. But it's frustrating, because the Sable Jet Trooper man has an ability to counter your actions in the sky, and I can't figure out what makes him do it. There are times when he lets you beat on him, there are times when he lets you do loops on him, and there are times when he doesn't. So the only thing I know for certain is he cannot counter the first hit. He can counter hits after that, but the first hit seems to be free. So if you use it correctly, you can hit him with the right thing, and then you can stop him from being able to do it. But much like Taskmaster, if you just try to wail on him, he has these fantastic abilities to just shut you down. So be very, very careful. But it begins with a rather large-scale stealth sequence here. And you know what I'm going to do, guys. It's the same thing we've done the full game. We're going to wait for the bar to say safe, and then we're going to press square. And fundamentally, that's all we're doing, right? But there's more nuance to it than that, and it is fun, it's very empowering. And it leads me to a topic that I haven't really had a chance to talk about too much. The conceit of empowerment versus player agency versus challenge. So, on the one hand, you want your character to feel like a superhero, right? Because that's what it's all about. It's about the fantasy, the power trip of being Spider-Man. On the other hand, you want it so that it's not the character that's too strong, it's the player using it that's too strong. You want it to feel like you are Spider-Man rather than he is Spider-Man and we're just along for the ride because we're so wonderfully powerful there's no point in us playing. And then the final part of this is how all of that translates to a challenging experience, and an experience that puts us on our hind feet and makes us earn it. And how does this relationship all work together? Well, I think once you get to a certain level of competency with this game's mechanics, I think it definitely weighs on one side rather than the other. And it weighs on the side of the empowerment rather than the difficulty. I don't think that this game is a particularly very difficult game, but it can be tough if you play under the right circumstances and if you misunderstand the right amount of mechanics. There are times in this game where you can get wrecked immediately, and then the next time you retry, nothing happens the same and you wreck them. And part of that is because the situations can go very wrong in this game. But when it comes to the true measurement of its difficulty, you'll probably find yourself getting into a comfortable state and going through a lot of the encounters just feeling quite natural and feeling much like the web slinger himself and just getting shit done. And I think that it's good that they make you feel that way, and I'm hoping that the ultimate difficulty that I keep talking about that technically still doesn't exist and might not exist and I hope it exists, please make it, if that does come out, it could slide that in the favour of the other way. And if it does, which I hope it does, it'll be wonderful for the game, because not only will you have the opportunity for the person who doesn't want to be challenged to feel like a hero and have a good time and still feel like he's in control, but then on the flip side of that scale, you'll have the person who wants to be beaten, bullied and bruised, while still feeling like a hero, but feeling like a hero that has to try every single trick he's ever learnt to survive. And achieving that balance is difficult, and it's one of the main reasons why playing and analysing video games is so much fun, because understanding that there are no wrong answers, it's all just different design philosophies, but at the same time appreciating what objectively feels fun as opposed to what objectively feels not as fun, because a lot of it is subjective. Some people like certain things, some people don't. The objective areas come in from, does it work well? Does it function right? Does it feel satisfying when you press it? And that sometimes can be much more difficult to spot, because there can be mechanics in games that aren't good, but work well. And objectively, the mechanic is sound, but the design behind it and the satisfaction level may be unsound. And once again, analysing these things is another aspect of the philosophy of game design that can be so interesting. And for the most, I think Spider-Man excels, I really do, and it might have sounded throughout a lot of this walkthrough that I'm quite negative on the game. It's only because a lot of the missteps are more interesting than the triumphs. This game is a triumph. It's a very well-made game with a lot to love. You know, you'd have to be a really miserable bastard to say that most of this game is bad, because it's not. But by the way, guys, this is the tough fight. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to press triangle to swing into these people, then I'm going to hold square to kick them, then I'm going to spam them with jizz, and then I'm going to hold triangle and slam them into the ground, making them a nice bukkake mess. And that's how you beat these enemies. And then you just rinse and repeat. The problem lays in where the next opponent is, and just how quick he is with his trigger finger. Because there's about to be people spawning with guns, with rocket launchers, and they spawn on two separate sides of you. There's two different waves of them. So you need to understand where they come from, understand your vulnerabilities, and take out the bigger threats. And if you want to use the gadgets like I'm using, feel free to do so. It takes one unupgraded trip mine to get rid of one of the flying guys. And if you get lucky, it'll stick two of them together. So those trip mines are absolutely ridiculously broken. And if you want to use them, feel free to, because they're really strong. And that's the end of the fight. And it looked easy, didn't it? But it's not, guys. I got hit a bunch in that fight because I was trying to do it perfectly. And sometimes the inputs didn't like me. But for this section here, if you just do the point-to-point movement without pressing any additional buttons, you'll move from safe spot to safe spot without taking any damage. And then we get to fight Lee. And Lee's pretty interesting, because you can use quad damage and make this fight much quicker, but you really don't need to. And the thing you need to bear in mind is when Lee is using the sword, he classes as a sword enemy. And the sword demons, the best way to fight them is to dodge their move and then attack them, because it leaves them vulnerable. And I'm going to be throwing a ton of laptops and monitors and screens and all kinds of expensive electronic government equipment at him. Additionally, if you don't want to throw TVs at him, because you don't have to, you can wait for him to exhaust himself, and when he turns back into normal Lee, when he goes back to Diet Coke from the full sugar variety, then you can press triangle and trigger the next phase in the fight. So at this point he's going to be slightly more aggressive with a couple more moves. When he does that animation just then, jump in the sky or swing on your web and you'll dodge it because it's a ground-based projectile. And then everything else is the same timing. And all you do is you wait for the spin, you counter it, and then you go in and you do some damage. I like to do a couple hits into a juggle or into going behind him and then into a ground slam. The combo that you use is up to you. Some of them can be extended, other times he gets out of it. But it's a really simple fight, guys. As long as your timing's good, and if you've bought the enhanced dodge, I would assume that getting the perfect dodge is a lot easier, but I don't know because I've never used it. So you're probably going to have a really easy time here. But there he is. And now that we've hit him a few times, it goes to the proper fight. So the first phase is kind of dodge all the projectiles, he comes out of Super Saiyan, and then you punch him in his big Vegeta mouth. And then this one is the one where you can fight him at any point, but you're going to be assailed now by the Spectres or the Phantoms or whatever these crazy negative energy, nullity clones are. And I'm going to thin out a little bit of the numbers, but I'm going to try my best to punch him when I can, like I did just then. because you can end this fight pretty quickly if you're aggressive against Lee. And this fight also has a checkpoint too, which is incredibly generous because it didn't have to. But you'll notice, when these people are here, he's kind of passive, and I don't know why. I'd prefer him to be really aggressive, because it's easy to kite the scrubbers, but when the boss doesn't attack, it feels like you're not doing anything. And once again, guys, to dodge that move, it's just like Shocker. As his hand starts coming forward, if you press dodge, it doesn't matter if you get the perfect dodge or the slow motion, he'll still fail to track you for some reason. And then here we go. He turns into full Dahaka mode, so feel free to throw things at him, and then press triangle and beat him up. And then here my combo is a launch into the combo, and then he breaks out of the combo, so I didn't get to do anything fancy then. But if you just want to do a simple input, guys, that does really good damage, just press square, circle, square. That's pretty much the plume of Prometheus for this game. You know, it's your distorted real impacts, it's whatever your bread and butter damage move is. This move right here is a claw drag, so make sure you jump into the sky or you get enough range from it, and then punish accordingly. Whip, launch, combo, into ground pound, into try to throw something at him but it didn't work. And then he's going to probably summon more people. There's the Dahaka again. Ignore him. Godsmack be damned. I stand alone. And then now, he spawned 3 of the little scrubbers. But these ones have swords, which means they're going to be more aggressive and they have the ability to do fancy moves. But you can web them, and then you can throw them. And then you're pretty much done, because they're not very, very good. And then the boss attacks us. We dodge him. We hit him with some debris. He animation cancels and stands up, which is fantastic. Thanks for that, Mr. Lee. You little cheater. And then he throws a projectile at me and I try and throw something at him and it doesn't work. So just keep dodging his moves and then punish him when he comes out of sexy juice mode. Boom! Look at that! Into the extender, and it let me do it. That was beautiful. When I do my no upgrades, no damage, ultimate difficulty stuff, I'm probably going to try and do the bosses until I figure out max damage and optimum combos, because I want to put bosses into moves where they can't recover and I can just piss in their mouths. That's going to be really fun. But there's Mr. Negative. Easily the most boring part of this game. Some strange villain that looks uninteresting and doesn't have a very good boss fight, but it's still a fun mission and I still like it. So thank you for watching, and you take care now.